Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Level Up podcast. I am beyond excited to welcome our special guest, Mr. Joey Gast. He is a registered dietitian and online nutrition and fitness coach. He is the owner of I Thrive Nutrition and Fitness, and he helps women lose fat, get toned, and finally feel confident in their skin by mastering their body, mind, and lifestyle. So, Joey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, thank you. I don't know if like people are going to be watching the video. Like I don't know if you post the videos anywhere, but I just was struggling so hard not to like smile and laugh because it's just so weird being a guest. Like I haven't been a guest on a podcast in so long, so it's kind of weird, but it's exciting. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's weird to hear the intro, right? And you're like, oh, they're talking about me.
Yeah, or when you pressed record, I'm like I had this urge to start talking, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let me just sit here and let Amanda get through her intro.
So
So it's cool.
love it. Love it. Well, Joey, we've met, how long ago has it been? Has it been 2 years? 3 years?
It's been three. Because we first met, quote unquote, that first mentorship we did, which was it started like January, February of 2021.
Okay.
So that was the first one, which I know we didn't really like talk during that one
No.
much though until the very end.
Hmm.
But yeah, we're coming up on 3 years of knowing each other, like knowing of each other, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
So crazy. Well, it's been awesome though to grow. I feel like we've grown and evolved together and in so many different ways. So it's cool to look back and be like, we first started our online business together, and then here we are 3 years later. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, a lot of shit has happened the past 3 years. A
A
lot
lot.
of good shit, some shit not so great, but it's overall been good. So
Yeah, it's been amazing. So, why don't we start by your background? So, tell us all a little bit about your story, entrepreneur journey, like what got you into the health and fitness space, the whole nine yards.
yeah, so kind of going back, I think like where it all really started was I grew up in a pretty unhealthy home. My parents didn't have good eating habits, didn't have good exercise habits. So, we would have like staple meals for us or for me would be like chicken strips, French fries. Staple snacks would be brownies all the time, all of that deep fried like French fries and stuff at home. So
Mhm.
I just grew up like with poor eating habits, grew up always a little chunky, a little overweight, had body image issues really at a pretty young age. Like I remember back as a kid, maybe like 10, 11 years old, like not wanting to take my shirt off at like swim parties with other kids because I felt like subconscious with that. And um, even did my first diet around like sixth grade, like where I intentionally
Oh,
tried to eat like less to, lose weight. But that's kind of like where I grew up at. It's kind of just poor eating habits, feeling a little bit overweight. And then once I got into middle school, I really started getting into working out because I used to watch, I don't know if you're like familiar with this at all, but I used to watch professional wrestling, like the
my
WWE with
God.
the like the
Yep.
scripted wrestling.
Yep. My
Uh,
father was huge into that. Like,
really?
that's how I found The Rock. And oh my God. So didn't watch it personally, but my father was a big fan.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I got into that in middle school and loved watching that. And I would like look up to these wrestlers there that were jacked out of their mind that,
Mhm.
were probably taking some extra stuff there to get that jacked. But I was like, I want to like look like them. I want to have that kind of confidence that they kind of displayed on TV. So I started lifting weights and would like lift these small, like 5 pound dumbbells in between commercial breaks while I was watching the wrestling and
I love
even like duct taped up one of the smaller or two of the smaller dumbbells together to make like 10 pounds once I got like strong enough. So I started doing that in middle school, continued just kind of loving working out in high school, but I still didn't have the good eating habits that, you actually need to change your body and everything. Um, I also worked at Wendy's in high school too, so that was a bad influence on my eating behaviors of, out, during my break,
it.
having a meal there after I get off work, having a meal there,
Yeah.
along with just like the eating habits I developed growing up. So kind of always had this love for working out, but didn't know how to put the nutrition piece together with everything. And then I went over to college and like halfway through my freshman year of college, with the college buffets, with, you swipe once and you're able to eat whatever you wanted. Like I did start to gain a little bit of weight too, and I already was going into college, a little chunky. And there was just like one day, it was early spring of my freshman year of college. So like early second semester, and I just like looked in the mirror, and I remember like walking down the dorm room hallway to like the community bathroom, staring in the mirror and just looking at myself like not happy with who I was becoming because I was so insecure with myself, both like how I carried myself as a person and also to just insecure with how I looked and how I was taking care of myself and everything. And I saw the health issues that my parents had throughout multiple years of me growing up. And I knew I didn't want to have those same issues myself when I got older because, like, I saw my parents, they struggled with obesity, diabetes, heart disease. My dad, he had um, uh, multiple heart surgeries as I was like a young age. He had his first heart attack before I was even born. So he had all these issues that I like was aware of when I was growing up, and I didn't want to deal with that myself. So it was kind of like that one day where I decided, I'm gonna make a change with my eating habits and change who I was. And I didn't make some drastic change. I made small changes, but those small changes ended up adding up, ended up losing about 40 pounds over those next like 9 months. And in hindsight, I didn't really lose the weight probably in the best way. I probably was under eating a little bit,
Mhm.
was doing probably more exercise than I needed to, but that was all I kind of knew. And once I lost those 40 pounds, I was definitely way more confident because I, had lost the weight and I had achieved this big achievement, but I still wasn't 100% happy with how my body looked and where I was. And then around that time was like 2013, 2014, where YouTube fitness really started kind of taking off and people started talking about if it fits your macros more. And that started blowing up. Started following people like Christian Guzman, Matt Ogus. I don't know if you're like familiar with him.
Oh, not.
I know Amanda Bucci was like big
Yeah.
with like the fitness stuff around that time too.
She was my
Uh,
go-to. She was like
yeah.
my girl for the longest time.
Yeah. And there was other people too, like Meg Squats was kind of like big in there. I don't know if you're familiar with her or not,
Yep.
but just it was like super popular, right? And so I started watching those videos and learning about macros. And I was like, oh, like this is interesting. Like you can directly control how your body changes based on, what macros you're eating or whatever. So I got really big into that, started learning how to change my body that way and started learning about how important lifting is and how, if your main goal is to really tone your body, shape your body, you probably should be doing more lifting than cardio, and started learning all about that and just really became obsessed with it. Like every like waking moment that I had that was free, that wasn't devoted to studying for school, like my schoolwork, I was like looking up YouTube videos and just watching all that stuff, looking up research studies and everything. And then I started my first fitness Instagram in like 2015-ish, when having a fitness Instagram wasn't really that cool to have. Like
Right.
I think there were people maybe from high school that kind of made some comments, made fun of me a little bit behind my back and stuff, but that's okay. But I started posting on there like every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, not even to like think, oh, I'm gonna be a coach and I'm gonna have clients, but I just was posting my journey, posting meals that I was eating, posting, if I had a good workout, posting some tips here and there, basically things that I was learning through all my studying, all my watching YouTube videos and everything, just thinking, okay, these people putting these YouTube videos out helped me so much change my body the right way and everything. So I want to try to help someone else. So, I would post there. Um, so I would do that and did that for about like a year or so. And at that point, I was going to school for psychology for my bachelor's, and I had like one semester left. So I was going to graduate with my bachelor's in psychology and didn't know where to go from there because I didn't really want to go and get like my doctorate and become like an actual psychologist. Didn't really want to be just like strictly a counselor. and I stumbled upon this career path of being a registered dietitian. So I looked into it and I was like, oh, like there I can, graduate with my bachelor's now, but I can apply to this other school to get my master's in nutrition and become a dietitian through that route. So I did that, kind of shifted career paths a little bit, became a dietitian, took on my first online client that first year of grad school, and which was really cool. Charged literally basically nothing. I think it was like 30 bucks a month that I charged for her
Yeah.
for her. And I had no idea what to charge then because like
Mhm.
online coaching wasn't really big at that point. But took her on, and as I kind of shared her progress, had another clients sign up like here and there, and at like throughout grad school. Didn't really push to like sign on a ton of people because I was so busy with school. But um, after I got through my internship and through grad school, which was really hard to get through because my mom died throughout that process, which I don't know if we're going to dive into that or not. But once I finally finished grad school and my internship, I passed my RD exam, and I had this decision to make if I wanted to apply for like a traditional RD job or if I wanted to go all in on my online business. And that was like January of 2021. And that's when I
Okay.
decided to, take that leap, hire that mentor that where we ended up meeting at, and um, ended up getting my first handful of clients. And then it's just continued to grow from there. And now I'm here. So I don't
Yeah.
know what other details you want me to dive into with that, but that's kind of my story so far.
I love it. I love it. And do you feel like because you were in psychology for a while, do you feel like what an awesome combination, right? I think a lot of times us as coaches, nutrition and fitness, psychology goes hand in hand. I feel like we're often called like therapists or life coaches, right? So I think that you having that little nugget of knowledge to implement with your clients is huge.
Yeah, I think it's definitely helped. I think if I were to go on and if I would have went to like grad school for psychology, I probably would have dove into things more because with my bachelor's, I didn't have hands-on experience like counseling people. But I think just like the background knowledge of learning how many factors really can influence the decisions people make, like being aware of that and realizing that has helped out a lot because you and I both know coaching people isn't as simple as okay, here's your calorie goal, like hit that. Like there's so many other factors, socioeconomic factors, how much money they make, their relationship dynamic that they have, if they have support in other areas, um, their past experiences with tracking and all this kind of stuff. Like it all impacts it. So I think getting my bachelor's in psychology, it just made me so aware of all those other influences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure like just again implementing that even with yourself, do you feel like because in the beginning you said that you were feeling a little insecure and as you went throughout your journey, what was that mindset journey for you? Like you were changing your body, yes, but did you feel mentally or were you implementing any sort of practices or like how mentally were you growing along with changing your body?
Yeah, I think the biggest way that I mentally grew when changing my body was realizing that life, how I like the lens that I viewed life in growing up before I went to college wasn't how I had to view it going forward, if that makes sense. So, like like I mentioned, I grew up in an unhealthy home. We didn't have, we didn't make good food choices. We didn't exercise much and everything. And I think when you grow up in an environment like that, you think that that's normal. You think that that's normal to eat like that, to have those kind of activity behaviors, to like not be active.
Mhm.
And as I started to change, I don't even think it was necessarily like the physical change of losing weight, but just like the behaviors I was adopting.
Mhm.
I started to view life like, okay, this can actually be my new normal. And what I thought was normal back then might not have been normal. And there are like some very specific situations that I can remember, especially with when I started dating my now wife at this point. I'd go and visit her and her family, and they would have a salad with every like main dinner that they ate. They would have like healthier meals and everything. And then when they weren't having healthier meals, we would go down to the park and do different activities and stuff and just be more active throughout the day. I'm like, like with my family, our meals look totally different
Yeah.
and our free time was more so spent sitting on the couch watching TV and
Mhm.
not moving. And it was just like along the way, I realized like what you believe to be so normal and how you think other people normally live their life, a lot of times it's totally different, and you have the ability to like shape your life how you want. Um, so I don't know if that kind of answered your question there,
Yeah,
but I think
a
just
hundred.
like opening my eyes of how different my life could be versus what like I thought it like should be like.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, you literally chose to change your reality. And that's often what we talk about with a lot of our clients, right? Like you said, the normal habits and behaviors that we are stuck in for such a long time doesn't necessarily mean that that's our forever. Like if you want something different, you just have to choose and decide and then take the action. So I think it's really cool that your eyes were open to different things like, oh, like they have salads at each dinner or like the different activities even that you might not necessarily like that wasn't your normal, but you've got little glimpses of like, oh, I could change things and change my reality. Right. And I think even with the YouTube videos, like that for me opened my eyes, like with Amanda Bucci and like was watching their lives. I was like, oh my God, it looks like they're living their best lives. And I was like, that's not my reality. Like, I feel like my life is boring. And, but I think that opened my eyes to the opportunity of, well, if they can have an online business and do all of those cool things, like, why can't I? So I didn't even know that the coaching world even existed until falling into those YouTube videos, which I think helped again open my eyes to see everything that's out there.
Yeah, yeah, it makes such a huge difference like when you expose yourself to different environments that's different from what you have always like lived in your whole entire life or what you've, thought to be possible your whole entire life. Like when you surround yourself with those types of people who are achieving what you want to achieve, or even just like you said, watching YouTube videos and seeing somebody live the life that you want, it's possible. And you're like, oh, like life actually can look like this, versus thinking, it just really can't.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to dive into, you and I met in one of the first mentorships. Was that the first mentorship that you ever invested in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the personal development journey. Like when you started like for me, jumping into being the entrepreneur, I was like, it's a mirror of everything that I needed to work on. It was like, hello, you have all of these things. So talk a little bit about, jumping into your first mentorship and even like as you've had multiple different mentors, like growing your business, how that's helped you either in personal development, grow as a different person. Like I feel like we're different people than where we were, 3 years ago. So we want to touch on that.
Yeah, I think well, the first mentor that I invested in, it was just so scary doing it.
Mhm.
Uh and I remember like talking with, my wife and everything at the time, and uh like I didn't have enough for the whole entire program. Like I didn't have enough saved up. I had like nothing saved up because I had just finished my internship that was
Right.
unpaid, and it's a full-time internship, and I didn't have time to work outside of the internship. So I only had enough to make the first month's payment. And the only reason why I had enough to make the first month is because I had talked with my local gym and they had kind of put some flyers out of my coaching services after I became an RD. And it got like a handful, I think like 5 clients at that time, and had probably a few pay in full. So I had enough to pay for the first month of this mentorship, and that was it. And I'm like, shit, how am I going to pay for the rest? Because I didn't even have like payment plans of like more money coming in at that point.
Hmm.
So it was scary. But I did it, and luckily my wife, she, supported me in it and believed in me with it. And um, so that's how it started. But as far as like, I don't know, I think you asked about like personal development and things that I learned along the way.
Hmm.
And I think one of the biggest things is that you have the ability to really rise to whatever kind of expectation like you have to rise to.
Hmm.
Like with my back against the wall of having to make enough to at least make these payments each month for this
Yeah.
mentorship I committed to, like that put my back against the wall where I had to make it happen. When
Mhm.
I, signed up for other internships in the future after that one, like I knew I had to make this certain amount at least so I can make those payments and kind of put your back against the wall. And like, if I were to have not invested in those mentorships, I wouldn't have learned nearly as much as I've learned, but also I wouldn't have had that push to actually do it. And I probably would have grown my business slower because I didn't have that like fear of not being able to make the payment or whatever, behind me. So I
Mhm.
think that's the kind of the first thing is just you have to sometimes you just have to like give yourself such a high expectation and that you don't think you can actually maybe reach,
Mhm.
but by doing that and committing to that it actually forces you to reach that expectation no matter what.
Yeah.
um I
Absolutely.
don't
On
know.
the other side
Yeah.
of fear, on the other side of fear is change and transformation, right? So I mean, same. I was like, I didn't have the extra money. I was transitioning out of a in-person studio, then wanting to be online, and then it was around COVID time. So I was like, I gotta make it happen. Like I didn't have the funds either, but I know that I wanted more. So I was like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get to that next level, right? I want that so bad. I desire this dream life, this online business. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes, even if I have to scrounge and try to figure out the money. So that kind of pushed me. And then once I got into the, entrepreneur or mentorship coaching world and saw so much value in the coaching for me, I was like, oh my God, like I'm growing, I'm becoming a different woman. And so it was like almost addicting, if you will. I was like, I have coaches in every area of my life because it really helped push me, I think, faster in my journey.
Yeah, and also too, it's like we kind of talked about before with the YouTube and changing the way you view life and everything. And like investing in a mentor, you see what's actually possible for you through either what the mentor is achieving or what other people who are maybe in the mentorship group that you're joining are achieving, and seeing other people like get the success you want, and also like being able to communicate with them and realize like, yeah, these people work really hard, but they're not really that different than you. Like you can achieve that too. You just need obviously the right guidance and the right knowledge and everything, the right strategy. But realizing they're not that different, they just have these tools that you don't have yet, gives you that confidence that like I can get there too eventually. So it opens your mind to just like, okay, hitting whatever month it is, 10K month, whatever it is that you're aiming for, like it actually is possible. And sometimes like before you invest in a mentor, you think it's not possible, but you only think it's not possible because you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And there's so many things that I've learned along the way with the mentors that I've invested in that I just probably never would have thought of on my own if I didn't join, or maybe I would have thought of them, but it would have taken me, a few years to actually realize, okay, this is a good strategy for, getting clients or maintaining clients or retaining clients versus it only taking a few months to learn that versus like a few years.
Right. Yeah, definitely expedites the whole process. I think for me too, a big piece when I mentioned it was like a mirror for all of the things that I needed to work on, a big thing that came up for me was, as we were developing systems in the whole nine yards, but it was like, okay, you need to show up live. You need to record yourself on camera. You need to take pictures. Like you literally put yourself out there. And for me, it was like, well, who am I? Like I would compare myself to everybody else, like the Amanda Bucci's and everybody else that I, had so desired to look like, to be. And I was I recognized I was so insecure. And one of my first mentors had called me out on it. Like, hey, you said you were gonna go live and do this whole thing, but your content, like you're not being consistent, you're not showing up consistently, putting yourself out there. And I was like, well, I didn't feel great that day, so I didn't want to take a picture. Or I don't love how this video of me looked, so I didn't take a picture. So really, my insecurities of I'm so consumed over what I'm looking like, I'm picking myself apart, were holding me back in business because I wouldn't put myself out there. Like I was just sabotaging myself. And then it's very similar to my fitness journey. Like I was, doing the bikini shows for such a long time, craving the success, the happiness, the whole nine yards. But in reality, I got to that body and I still wasn't super confident. So it's just everything kind of comes full circle. But that was a really big piece in the starting of my business was I needed to be comfortable and confident in myself and who I was in order to keep growing and scaling my business. I think that was a huge piece for me.
Yeah, and that's something that only comes with reps and just like doing it over and over. Like the first time, if you're somebody who is just getting on camera for the first time or getting used to it, like you're not going to feel confident doing it at first. You just have to keep doing it, and eventually it'll become more natural. Like myself, I was so insecure with talking on camera or like presenting in public or whatever when I first got started with this back in like 2017. And it's funny because lately I've been pulling up this my first ever YouTube video. I've been pulling it up and watching it, and it's this cringy video of me just saying why I'm starting this YouTube channel,
Mhm.
why I'm documenting. This was 7 years ago, so like 2017, that first year of grad school when I posted this. And I think I was driving from the gym back to my apartment, which disclaimer, I never record when I drive anymore. And it honestly pisses me off that I did record when I drove. And it pisses me off when I see other people record when they drive because I just have this belief that if you're recording a video, especially for social media and driving, you're not paying attention to the road like you should be. And, you could put somebody else's, life at risk. But so I hate that video for that reason, but I love it because I'm talking so monotone. I'm stumbling over my words like literally every other word. I mean, I do it a lot now, but not every other word. And you could tell I'm so uncomfortable with talking. And like to see my videos now, how far they've come is just really cool because I still don't view myself as a great speaker, but I've come leaps and bounds from where I was. And like that only came from just doing it over and over and over again. And then eventually you start to get better, like the skill gets better. And then also eventually you start to just really not give a shit what other people think. And that's like unlocks a whole new level too.
That's like freedom. That is complete and total freedom. And I don't know about you. I know you got into your powerlifting and everything else. So is your fitness journey similar to your business journey? Like for me, I feel like they're very, very similar because when I finally established the confidence and I was taking care of myself the right way and loving and practicing, like loving and respecting my body. And when I felt really good and comfortable with who I was, and I didn't give a shit about what anybody else thought anymore, my business started to take off. It was like my demeanor, the energy, everything around it. So was interested if your journeys were similar in that regard.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of similarities between business and fitness, and there are definitely similarities in my own journey that I saw. And one thing too, just to like backtrack for a second, when we were just talking about, you not showing up on camera the way you should for your business because you feel insecure is like your fitness clients not going to the gym when you write a workout program for them because they feel insecure with how they look or they
Yep.
think people are looking at them. And you probably would tell your fitness client that nobody's paying attention to you, nobody's watching you, that like you need to just do it anyway. And maybe, you set a smaller goal of, okay, let's just go and walk on the treadmill for a little bit and maybe not do your workout, but that's like a small step. And maybe for you, instead of, jumping on a 20-minute live, you just go live for like a couple minutes, but you get that rep in. But anyways, just want to like
No,
connect
yeah.
those dots
That's
there.
that's a good full circle. Like a perfect.
But yeah, but I think with my fitness journey, I think a couple of things. One, just how it connects with my business journey is not caring as much what other people are thinking because with my fitness journey, I really started to see the most progress when like one big thing was me filming my lifts and like correcting my form. And I felt so insecure setting my phone up like on a bench with like against my water bottle to film myself squatting to see, oh, am I going low enough? Oh, like, am I pushing myself enough in those lifts? Or maybe deadlifts, like am I locking my knees out enough? Like when it comes to powerlifting, like filming myself in the gym was super intimidating. And I thought everyone was looking at me when I would do that. But doing that improved me as a lifter, as a power lifter, so much. And even just going into the squat rack in general, was intimidating for me at first because I like grew up just kind of working out with dumbbells at home and I never really lifted legs much. I just did upper body back in high school.
Typical man,
So
typical man,
I
right?
know I
Legs.
chest and biceps. That was it. Um, but like I went into college and then I started lifting legs and I would go in the squat rack and I would have to squat like I don't know, like 135 or maybe even less than that when I started. And there were other guys in there lifting and they were squatting like 315. And I'm like, how in the world? Like, I'm going to squat next to them using 135 and how stupid am I going to look? But did it anyway, even filmed myself with those lighter weights to make sure my form was good. So that was one way I kind of just like, I felt uncomfortable and I felt intimidated and I thought people were judging me, but I just did it anyway. And it helped improve my fitness journey where like you have to have the same mindset with business and putting yourself out there on social media. Like, even if you feel insecure, you just have to do it anyway and get the reps in because if nobody sees your stuff on social media or nobody connects with you in some way, you can build a business outside of social media, but if you're trying to build it with social media, like you have to show up.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. There's duality there. So I love it. I love it. So shifting gears a little bit, I would love to talk about anything that maybe you've overcame or struggling in throughout building your business, maybe throughout a fitness journey. Something that is really coming to mind that, you know what, I overcame this and you've learned a lot from it.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing was um probably probably dealing with my mom passing away. That was probably the biggest thing. And I didn't really have my business at that point, but I was really struggling with finishing school, which then unlocked me to be able to become a dietitian, which then, led to the business. So that's kind of the big thing because I was finishing up grad school and I had really like a month left and I still had to finish my big like master's thesis project. And the goal was to just really knock it out in that next month. And like 2 weeks before graduation, during that period when I was going to knock out this thesis, my mom unexpectedly passed away. And that was obviously like hit me really hard because no one was expecting it. And I was, 3.5 hours away. So I hadn't really seen her much and everything. And so we kind of pushed back my master's thesis and project because of that. Um, and it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. And my lease was up in my apartment like 2 weeks later because I was planning on graduating and being done. So I ended up moving to kind of the Akron area from there. And so I was like away from grad school, finished all of my classes. I just had this master's thesis and paper and project to finish. And but I was living away and I was dealing with, mourning loss of my mom, dealing with all those feelings of guilt and everything. And it just like I really struggled to work on that paper. Like I was away. It was so easy to just like not look at my emails if my professor was emailing me about it. And I just really pushed it off. And I had just gotten into an internship um like 3 weeks before my mom died too. And so I had that was supposed to be starting. So then I ended up getting started with that and was still dealing with the mourning and the grieving process. And my first rotation in my internship was clinical, which I wasn't really a fan of that area. Was in a hospital all the time, which also like seeing sick patients and everything, I think kind of like fed into those feelings of just like um I don't know, just thinking about my mom more and everything. And like there were times where I was like walking down the hallway and I would like glance in a room and I would see somebody like in the bed and like I thought it was my mom and it would kind of like trigger me. Like I thought it looked like my mom and it kind of triggered me there. So was dealing with a lot of just like stress, depression, anxiety that year and everything. And it caused me to just not really be a good intern. And when I finished my clinical rotation, my preceptor sat me down and she was like, talked with all the other dietitians I was working with and basically told me like I did not get good reviews from the rest of the dietitians. I was showing up 5 to 10 minutes later than I was supposed to. I wasn't enthusiastic about what I was doing and all that. And I like she just said all this stuff, gave me my review, and it was, I don't know what grade it was, but it wasn't passing. Uh, and that she was going to be contacting like the program director of my internship to figure out what the next steps were. And I remember just sitting there in her office, just like staring. I wasn't even staring at her. I was just like staring at the desk in front of me, and I just started crying. Like tears started coming on my face because I was like, this was probably like the first time I ever got told that I was not doing a good job at something like this, and like potentially thinking, am I going to get kicked out of this internship? And if I do, am I even going to be able to get one back? And I've spent all this time, money going to school to be an RD, and to have that like taken away from me. So started crying, and then we ended up having a conversation. I kind of told her what was going on, and around that time when we were sitting down was like the 1 year anniversary pretty much of when my mom died too, so all those feelings were like heightened at that time.
Yeah.
uh so I was really struggling, and like I went back home, talked with my wife about everything, got an email from my program director saying that um I was going to get another shot at like proving that I was able to like stay in the internship, and proving that I was, actually a good intern and cared about this. But if I had failed this last shot, then like I was going to get kicked out. So, I talked with my wife and decided that I needed to actually reach out for help and like talk with, a counselor, psychologist, all this stuff to just work through these issues and, um, figure out a solution and just talk through these things and figure out a way to overcome them. And once I did that, it just like changed everything for me. Um, because I was, one, able to have someone to like talk about this stuff with, but two, it shifted my mindset of just dealing with this on my own and just like sulking in it and just like being a victim to I'm actually doing something about it, and I'm actually taking a step to improve it and change it. And also taking that step and realizing like I can't overcome and do everything on my own because I'm terrible at asking for help. And that like unlocked something in me too. And from there, after talking with the counselor and psychologist and being in counseling for multiple months, and um the next review of my internship with my preceptor, I got amazing reviews. She was like, I'm a totally different person, and ended up having a really good experience the rest of my internship and passed and everything. But I think that was like the biggest thing I had to overcome was that feeling of realizing I needed to improve to get to where I wanted to go, but I couldn't do it on my own, and I needed to ask for help. And if I wouldn't have asked for help from like a professional, then like I probably wouldn't have changed my mindset. I probably wouldn't have improved. I possibly could have gotten kicked out of my internship and wouldn't really maybe be here. I mean, I know you don't have to be a dietitian to be a coach, but that was like a big thing for me to do that. So I think that was the biggest obstacle for me to overcome
Yeah.
along the way. And I think it made me accept going forward that if there's something that I can't do myself, there's no shame in reaching out for help. And reaching out for help can a lot of times be the best thing you can do if you can't get to where you want to, be by yourself.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is huge. And I feel like for so many people, it often does take something happen like that happening, like them sitting you down and be like, hey, look, you're not gonna pass. And we're gonna do something, either let you go or we'll give you another chance. But like the loss of your mother and that being so traumatic, like a lot of times it takes a traumatic experience to almost recognize and like work through that you do need to ask for help. Like we're not superhumans as much as we like to think that we are. I can definitely relate. I have a hard time asking for help as well. But throughout my grieving, I had definitely realized that, asking for help and support, that's how I got to be where I am today. I don't know why it's so difficult to ask for help. Where that comes from? Maybe it comes
I,
from something.
I don't know. I think it just comes from when you feel like you have to ask for help, you are basically admitting that there's some kind of, I don't know if I would say flaw or weakness, or there's something missing in you to do what you want to do. And Uh, I think that's maybe where like the shame of it comes into. Like we feel like we should be able to do everything ourselves, but anybody who's ever like been successful or has overcome something, they've done it with the help of somebody else in some way, whether it's them directly helping them or giving them the tools or knowledge or motivation or inspiration or something. There's always like some other person that somehow helps someone get through. And like this situation could be different for, depending on who you are. It could be like you talked about sometimes you like have this moment where like, my preceptor sat me down and told me this. But for some people it's their doctor saying, "Hey, like this is where your, A1C numbers are. Like if you don't get this under control, you're going to have kidney issues. You might deal with this or that, and your health is going to be in a really bad spot in 5 years if you don't improve this." Or maybe it's, if you've been trying to build your business for multiple months or years on your own, and like every single year you're barely able to make rent, and then like this one month you're actually not able to, and like, you can't pay for the things you have to. Maybe that's like your moment. But I think there is a lot of times for some people like that moment where it's like you tried it on your own for so long, and that's where I tried to overcome this depression, this anxiety, and all this stuff for a year on my own and couldn't get there, to where it's like, okay, push comes to shove, have to like ask for help.
Absolutely. Because then it's like, what's the alternative, right? Like, let me just lean in and ask for support in any which way. And I mean, I would not be where I am today without any of my coaches, because of exactly that. Like in the beginning, working on a lot of my confidence and the whole bikini show stuff, like the fitness journey, I needed help and support to get out of the dieting mindset and to do it a better way and to learn to love myself. And even getting into business and learning, like I would have no idea to grow an online business. I needed support. I was like, I don't even know where the hell to start. So that expedite, I grew really fast. But then even in the grieving process of losing my father traumatically, I got so used to asking for the help throughout all of these other mentorships that I was like, I know that if I lean in and ask for support, things are going to get better faster. Like I'll be able to move, right? And I think that is just huge. And it doesn't even have to be like a death, a traumatic event. But like you said, in any way, shape, or form, to just lean in and ask for support. It could be just like, hey, I'm not feeling great this week. How can I go about crushing my nutrition? Or what can I do to make me feel a little bit better? Like to lean, that's where the transformation happens. And that's why I love coaching so much, is the connection piece, and to like, let's link arms and let's get you to where you want to be faster. That's why coaching for me, I don't know if I'll ever completely give it up, because I love that piece of it.
Yeah, and I think, when you're on your own too, it's easy to feel like all these struggles you have or obstacles you run into or problems you have, it's easy to feel like you're the only one experiencing them, and it's easy to feel alone versus when you have a mentor to even just share your thoughts. Oh, like, I'm anxious about, this month's revenue or whatever. I'm anxious about, the scale not really moving, and you talk with them and they're able to talk you off the ledge and make you realize, okay, these are all normal feelings that every, person trying to lose weight goes through, or every entrepreneur goes through. And then you're able to realize, okay, like I'm not alone. This is normal and this is part of the journey. And you don't freak out, because a lot of times if you feel like what you're experiencing is not normal and something's wrong with it, then you end up, making drastic decisions or changing something when you really shouldn't change something.
Absolutely. That's a huge piece. That's why I love like masterminds, because of being in a container where people are connecting. You're all similar. You're all on different journeys, right? But you all want more for your life. So coming together and being in a group of people that are striving for more, and like listening to just like maybe some things that they are struggling with or they need support with. It's almost like, oh, I can relate to that. Oh, she deals with that too. Or like vice versa. And even like you and I developing this friendship over the last several years, it's so amazing to have each other to bounce things off of one another. Like, oh, we all go through these things. So it's almost like normalizes our, whether it's limiting beliefs or problems that come up, to help keep pushing you to move forward.
Yeah. And to add on that too is like a lot of people who want to lose weight or people who want to build their business, a lot of times their partner, their spouse, or even their friends aren't on the same journey. Like I have a lot of clients where their husbands like they either don't want to lose weight or they don't need to or whatever. So they have totally different goals and they don't pay attention to their workouts or they don't pay attention to their nutrition. So like for you as somebody who's trying to achieve something in that regard, who do you have to communicate with to, maybe vent to or just share maybe your concerns with or whatever? Like you don't have anybody if your partner just doesn't get it because they're not in the trenches too. Or same thing with business. Like my wife, she's not a business owner. So talking with her about business stuff, sometimes it just doesn't connect. Like she's super supportive and everything, and I love her for that, but she doesn't sometimes understand like exactly how it feels to own a business and everything. So like being surrounded by people who are on similar journeys and paths is so important because it's easy if you're surrounded by people who are not on that path for you to convince yourself that like your goals aren't possible or your goals aren't important or to just feel like I said before like alone and feel like all the struggles you're having are just you and you're not supported by anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I may be biased, but I think that that's a big part of growth is like putting yourself in the room of other people that are, ahead of you or that again are striving for more. It doesn't matter in which direction. It really enhances everything and it keeps pushing you forward versus like being in surrounded by people that maybe are not. Like you said, they're not on similar journeys. So it almost convinces you like, oh, well, maybe I don't need that, or maybe I don't want that. It's like you're meant to have anything that you want, anything that you desire. And if you desire it, it's meant for you. So like, let's go for it. I also think too, another piece is to have an outside source is really powerful. Because like, let's be honest, we don't always lean in and listen to as much as we support and love our family and people right around us, but to have them like coaching you or pushing you along, sometimes it's challenging.
Yeah. There have been multiple times where my wife has kind of brought up me coaching her in some aspect and it just doesn't work out. Like because it's just having somebody who, like you said, is an outside source who's can be objective with you, who can tell you things that maybe you don't really want to hear that much in the moment, but you need to hear in order to like grow and progress is super valuable. And like if you're relying on your partner or your spouse to like motivate you to go to the gym or to motivate you with your business or to talk to you about your business, like they're coming from a more biased point of view because they're your partner, they're your spouse or whatever. And also too, like if there's something that you need to hear but you don't want to hear, there's there's a good chance they're not going to be as upfront with you maybe because they're like, well, I don't want to argue all night about this if I like bring this point up,
Yeah.
like if my wife, if she's not being consistent with her workouts, like I
Mhm.
don't want to push that button
Yep.
sometimes,
Yep.
So it's just it's so nice to have someone that's an outside person because they can be more objective with you and also like the financial aspect of actually investing in a coach like helps to keep you accountable too if you're actually paying for a fitness coach or paying for a business coach or whatever. It helps you to kind of have skin in the game to follow through with what you say you're going to do.
Hell yeah. Just like you said earlier in the episode, when your back was against the wall when you made that first investment, you had no option to show up and make it happen. Like it's like, well, I literally have to. How am I going to pay the next payment? So maybe you don't
Yeah.
have to be at that extreme, but there is value behind investing in yourself. And most think it's like that initial transaction is like, I don't know, there's some magic behind it of like, all right, I believe that I can do this. Here's the initial like change, let's fucking go. Like it's an energy.
Yeah, for sure. Because you're putting money into something and saying, okay, I'm putting money in myself to grow. And the act of doing that is powerful of like pushing you to actually like make it count then versus just saying, okay, I'm going to grow, but not having any skin in the game with it. And now you just don't have that extra push that a lot of times you need. So it's not to say just like go spend money for the hell of it, but it is
Right.
one, big component that pushes you forward to, keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would love for you to share anything that you're currently working on, currently in business, personal. What's on the agenda for you this year, 2024?
Oh man, 2024. Um, Personal, I guess just kind of have some fat loss goals for this year again. Last year, after I had my son, I really wanted to get in better shape, and I did lose almost 20 pounds last year. So,
Amazing.
um, I'm trying to continue that trend this year and get a little bit leaner and just kind of, now that I'm in my 30s, want to have the best looking 30-year-old, gonna be 31 this year, 30-year-old body as I can.
No dad bod.
That'll be my dad bod.
That's the dad bod. I love it.
Uh, but so that's part of it, I guess, personal. Business wise, just really focusing on client experience and making sure clients are taken care of, client results, and all that. That's a big focus for me this year. Um, Also, may have some things in the works for later this year of other coaches who want to improve on their coaching skills and be well equipped to get their clients the best results for obviously having happy clients, but also that helps with retaining clients, helps with referrals from clients. So might have something on the in the works later this year regarding that too. uh and what else? Personal business, what else do we have going on this year? I think that's kind of it. Just podcasts is growing, gonna be having more guests on and everything too with that. Um, so I think that's everything. And I think this year too is really about um embracing the slower growth now. Like where my business is at, it's in a decent spot, and I really want to focus on sustainable, slower growth that feels good to me, and really putting my business together the way that I kind of envisioned it when I first started this thing, which is already coming to fruition. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, I love it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to keep watching you on your journey. Is there anything else that you feel called to share? You want to let everybody know about? Over.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it, other than we got through the podcast without Riley barking. So
I
that's a
know.
plus.
I know. I heard her get up and start moving. I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. So,
Yeah. And I guess one last thing, because I know, this podcast, we talk a lot about business and stuff. And for somebody who's trying to build their online coaching business, I think the biggest piece of advice is one, to make sure your clients are taken care of, because your best business is going to be one that retains clients the most, where they're getting the best results, where they're the happiest. Because like I said, you're going to retain them more, and also you're going to get more referrals that way. But then also too, like when you're showing up online and doing all the things to build your business, and sometimes it feels like it's not working, just keep going and keep staying consistent, and just like have the mentality of no matter what, I'm going to just keep going. Same thing, that you tell your fitness clients when they don't see the scale go down, in a week or in a day or whatever it is, or, they have one week where they're having like their clothes fit a little bit tighter. Like you probably tell them to just keep going, keep staying consistent. You'll break through this eventually, like you're on the right path, and just keep telling yourself that. Put yourself almost in that like shoe of what would you tell yourself if you were like the business coach behind the scenes? You'd probably tell yourself to just keep showing up, um, and not give up just because, you have a month where maybe things don't go as planned, or you have that doubt creep in. Because the people who end up being successful are the ones who obviously have the tools, but also the people who just keep going no matter what, too.
absolutely. Who you are in those quiet moments or when things feel like they're not working defines your success in every area, fitness, business, life. So awesome.
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Joey, thank you so much for your time and sharing everything in the audience today. So, where can everybody find you? Share what's going on, like, community. I know you mentioned the podcast. Where can they best reach out to you?
Yeah, so my podcast name is Fit Take with Joey Gast. So you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. My Instagram name is Joey the Dietitian. So you can look me up there if you want. And then Facebook, you can search me on there. My name, Joey Gast, or I do have a free Facebook community for people looking to lose body fat, lose weight, get toned. Mostly women. That's who I kind of work with for the most part. And the Facebook group name is Fat Loss Made Simple. So you can search that. and you should be able to find it there.
Perfect. Awesome. And I'll make sure I have all your links in the show notes below so you guys can easily find him. So thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you on the next episode of Level Up.